We're requesting.
Yes, I think I got it. I think
Yes.
I got it. Let me try. Okay, is my slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, thank you. So it's an honor to join Professor Rajan for this talk. Before we started, we've been having some chat with him, and we learned so much about ISRO's early days. It was very interesting and inspiring. So with that background, going forward, looking in the future, what is the skill set that students will be requiring in the 21st century? We are probably well in 20 years, but in the last 1.5 years, I think the world is, I won't say the world is upside down, but what would have taken 5 years, 10 years to change is being done in the last 18 months. So that's kind of a rapid, fast wave we have learned, and the world has transformed. So if I were to give this talk 2 years before and now, I think I have to like completely have changed the talk and the projection for the next 80 to 90 years. What are the skill sets that will be required? So that's kind of the learnings we have had in the last 18 months. Some have been good, some have been really bad. We have had the horrors of the pandemic, but leaving that aside, from in terms of work, learning, how do we collaborate? That's like fundamentally changed in the last 18 months. So, and Mr. Tarun introduced, I'm Venkatrangan. You can follow me at Venkatrangan or at my blog at tncv.me. Let me start with a chart to kind of set stage. It's a very brief talk. I'm only going to be talking about 4 key points that I think students in the future, students currently should be learning, preparing themselves for the future. This is a very interesting statistics that came about a year and a half back by McKinsey. The jobs at risk by 2030. And if you look at the China number is pretty scary. We always look to China. China is progressing. China is rapiding so much. But if you look at the jobs that is going to be taken over by automation in the next 10 years, China is at a much higher risk than rest of the Western world and others. 66% of men's job in China, which is probably easy to relate because they are more of manufacturing and factory jobs, which is very easy to understand also, are going away by automation. Whereas in India, it's 44%. That also shows that we are lagging China, obviously. That's with men. This is a different, I like to bring a contrast. In terms of women's job that are being taken over by automation, according to McKinsey, it's only 12%. It's, if you read this report, it has good news for women in India, it has bad news for women in India. The good news is it's only about 12% of the jobs are going to be taken over by automation that women are doing. But the flip side of the coin, women are still doing job in India which are not at the same level as men. We are not the leaders, we are not lagging, but we should do a lot better. This is probably in southern states and states like Tamil Nadu, we are probably more women empowerment is happening. Women are at high places. We have even had chief ministers as women and so on and so forth. But all of India, 12% of the job that McKinsey is saying are at risk for women for automation by 2030. So the bottom line that I'd like to bring to your attention is that automation, these are keywords. Of course, in the last 18 months, some of the most commonly used words we have seen is pandemic, lockdown, work from home, automation, artificial intelligence. Of course, most of us don't even understand what is pandemic, but all of us become experts on epidemiologists and so on and so forth. But the point is, automation is for real. AI is for real. A lot of the jobs are being taken over by them, and that pace is only going to accelerate. So what do we do? I call this as a MAP, M.A.P, where it is make anything possible. That's the message. If students who are listening to this talk, you want to take a message, there are 4 skills that I will talk about that you should be learning. But the most important message is this slide. Remember to heart that you can make anything possible. If you can, like Dr. Kalam said, if you can dream, you can do it. I'm just rephrasing that in this MAP, M.A.P, make anything possible. And for that, I will start with this Tirukural, which is, Tirukural has been one of the very favorite works that Dr. Kalam read and reread and referred many times, as he has said in his biography and etc. So this Tirukural, I won't read the Tirukural, but the point is there any work that's impossible to do if done at the right time with the right tools? That's the kind of the literal translation of the Tamil Tirukural. But I'll replace the word tools with skills, which means if you have the right skills and you do it at the right time, any work is possible. That's the key message that I like students to take it to heart. And for that, to acquire these skills, what do you do? How do you prepare yourself? And what are the most important skills that you need to be having for this century? Those are 4 skills we look at, top level skills, top level trends we'll see. First one, this is called Lattice career progression. It might be a new term. Career, we know. Progression, we know. Career progression, we know. Growing in jobs, we all understand. But what is this Lattice career progression? I will let you Google this term. Just Google Lattice career progression, and you'll read about this. Basically, what our fathers and grandfathers would have had job for a life. You will join, say, you will join as a government job, and you'll join a bank as a clerk, and you will write exams, and you'll have your experience, you will get promoted. Finally, you will retire as a manager or a GM, and depending upon your skill and the exams you perform. But you had lifelong jobs. Take it today that in the 21st century, it's already happening now, and it's again accelerated by the pandemic. There is no lifelong jobs. There is no such thing anymore. And also there is, even if you have a lifelong job, even if it's in a government or a PSC or whatever, or education academia, there's no lifelong roles. Please remove that. You cannot join into a company or a role and expect to lifelong to do that role. And kids, especially today, who are coming to workforce, if you ask them to do the same job like last year, they are not interested. Their attention span, I won't call it attention span is lost, but they are able to do and grasp a lot more than previous generations. So there is no lifelong roles. The second thing is, this is a very good example a friend of mine shared to me. If when you're thinking about career, do you want your career to be on automatic drive? We have this automatic gear cars, right? You just put it on auto drive and you go in any speed, the gears automatically change. And basically somebody else is taking care of it for you. So that kind of lifelong jobs and lifelong roles and somebody else taking care of your career is like gone. That's not there. No such thing exists anymore. You have to today, it's not manual mode. That's the difference. The opposite to automatic drive is not manual drive in this. The opposite to in these modern cars today, like your Audi and BMWs, there's no manual drive. There is something called as a sports drive, which is like an hybrid of manual and auto, but gives you the control and ability and the power of both. That's what these sports mode do. So you have to have your jobs and career in a sports mode where you will have to be on automatic mode, but then you will have to move it to higher levels yourself. You will have to bring in your effort to shift it to higher gears and higher levels. So what do you do? For handling this lateral career progression, what are the skill sets that you need to acquire? First, which is often repeated, it's kind of a cliche, but I'll repeat it. You have to learn, unlearn, and learn. And this is a process that's going to repeat in your life forever. Recently, I learned a new programming language just for the sake of it. If I don't, then I don't understand the vocabulary of new tools and new practices that are coming in the world. Earlier in software, we learned waterfall model. Today, nobody talks about waterfall model. Even agile is not followed. We had DevOps, and we have more ways of doing software today that are more, the cadence of it is increased. So you'll have to learn new skills, unlearn new skills, because as new automation and AI and tools and practices come, you have to unlearn them, which is very, very difficult. Sometimes I sit on a review meeting, I become cynical. I'll say this is not working. That's because in the past it doesn't work. It doesn't mean in the future it won't work. So I'll have to unlearn certain things and then learn. And how do I learn today? All of us in the 18 months, we have been accelerated to learn by online. Those of you who wouldn't have touched online or learning online or said all this Udemy and edX and Coursera and other materials online, I can't learn. I need to learn from a teacher, a mentor. All that we have now got used to learning by online. There is phenomenal amount of information that's available today. Even Government of India has put a lot of those digital libraries. Best lectures from the best universities in India are available for you, and also from the world. You go to Stanford University distance learning, which are available online for free. It's amazing. Those lectures, you would have to pay. You would have to be the cream of the cream and pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to even sit in that classroom and listen. Those are now available. One problem, of course, is there is abundance of information. So you don't know what to learn. That's where you have to be very, very choosy. That's the skill set you will have to pick up. What should you unlearn? What should you learn? And where do you learn it? That becomes very, very important. That comes to my next point. You have to be a gatherer of information. You don't need to, today you don't need to, when you say 20 years back, you have to memorize phone numbers. Today, I doubt whether an husband knows the wife's phone number or the vice versa. Or we probably teach the kids to learn their father and mother's mobile number because they can't carry a phone. By the time they start carrying it, they don't even know their parents' mobile number or phone number or address for that matter. Because the memorizing that doesn't become important anymore, but you have to be a gatherer of information. You cannot just rely on Google search. You need to know other ways that in which you can gather information. You need to know where to go for a particular information. So much of research papers, etc. is available, but how do you find out them? How do you discover them? And once you discover and start reading them, how do you process them and become a thinker? Just having information, computers can do a much better job than us. Like the Robo movie Rajani acted, today computers can read an entire volume or libraries in like seconds or microseconds. But that's not the point. How do you take a decision? How do you think about it? We don't spend time thinking. We consume so much of content, we don't become thinkers. That's very important. So learn, unlearn, learn, online learning, discover, and be thinkers. Last is important point, but when it comes to career, I always repeat this, that said often by Dr. Kalam. 10 years back, he talked about it in our office event once. To me, I'm paraphrasing it. To me, the way the whole message of Dr. Kalam, you can read it in my blog and elsewhere, that he said, I'm again paraphrasing it, you can be with integrity. That's not very difficult. Anybody can be with integrity and say, I have integrity, but you have to work with integrity. I can sit in my house, not do anything and say, I'm the most integral person. That doesn't make anything. You are as good as a rock. You have to do actions. You have to be active, still be with integrity. That is the key message here. So learn, unlearn, learn, and work with integrity. The second thing is be truly global. This we have learned. Of course, Dr. Kalam being a visionary, 10 years back itself, he wrote about virtual offices. He said people won't be traveling. They will be working from their office and connecting using mobile. He called mobility, and then working from their office. Today, we know that's virtual office, hybrid working, work from home. All this we are very, very familiar. In this environment, there is a fundamental thing that's come in with hybrid working and all. Earlier, just 10 years back, like you'd have heard, you had a job in the US, you got an education, you finished your education in the US, you worked in a US company, say Microsoft, Google, Facebook, wherever. You have to be how to be American, how to work there, what is the culture, what is the language, how do you do, what is the work habits, so on and so forth. That everybody, from the world, many people came to America, but all of them took the American way of doing things. Today, that's not valid because we are all working in work from home or virtual office and we are connected. So in a team, like my co-brother, he works in an automobile design company that's having engineers from Eastern European countries, Western European countries, Africa, Indonesia, India, Japan, Korea. So in a typical Zoom call that you go in for him, it's like 7-8 country people are available at the same time in a call. So it doesn't mean you cannot be American alone. You cannot be Indian alone there. You have to be a true global citizen if you have to be in these global teams. So there are skills you have to pick up for that. What do you do? Learn world languages, very key. People have often repeated. Even in Chennai, you can learn Japanese, Chinese, French. There are all these embassies have their own learning programs. Computers are doing automation. We are having two-way translation available, but still nothing like having a native speaking by yourself to another person, your customer. Computers don't buy from each other. Human beings sell to others and human beings buy from one another. Understand that. So to build a relationship with your customer, it's very important you speak his or her language. So learning the world languages, apart from Indian languages, learn at least one other world language. It could be an European language, it could be Chinese, it could be Japanese, it could be Korean, whatever, but learn it. That's a very, very advantageous skill set in today's world. Read about other cultures, other books. Don't read your own language books or don't restrict today other things. With your Netflix and Amazon, we have wonderful opportunity to view other language, other world culture movies. If you can't read books, watch those movies. Phenomenal. There are some South American movies that I saw which are so good. You understand a lot of similarities with our culture, a lot of differences also. So you start appreciating that. So when you have somebody, say from Brazil in a call, and you watched a Brazil movie or a couple of movies are read, and you're able to quote it to him, that is going to bring you much closer to each other. That he's going to appreciate it. That, and if he or she is your boss, it's going to definitely score you brownies. So learn world languages, watch movies or books, learn multiculture. Of course, to appreciate it, internalize it, it's very important. You also taste the food. Multi cuisine. Today, even in Chennai, with your Swiggies of the world, you can order multi cuisine. Try them. And then travel. Of course, you can't be traveling today in the pandemic, but as it opens up, travel wherever you want. And I have gone around about 18, 19 countries. Nothing like traveling. During the pandemic, I was missing it so much. I was hanging all this Reddit. Reddit has this reddit.com. If you haven't been there, just check it out. It's an interesting social media thing. People just walk from their office to house or house to office. I was watching, they just switch on their mobile, put it on their pockets and just watch. So we can be one of them, especially during the last year, first wave of pandemic. It's like claustrophobic sitting in our house. That time I switched on these and just watching people in Australia, Japan, walking to their houses, or even Africa. Somewhere in Kenya, somebody in a village was walking from their bus stand to office. This is live. As they were walking, we were able to watch. And that also learns you, it opens your mind. It's not about just the place, what's there. It is about opening your inner heart and feeling for them. The third point, which will come to the fourth point, I'll wrap in a couple of minutes. Each one of us today in this 21st century is a startup. It's not about company, it's not a business. Each of us have to be the startup, have to be marketing our own career. Like I said, there's no lifelong jobs or roles. So you have to be your marketer. Like I often say, in my blog, I've written close to about 4,000 posts now across 16 years. I often go back to my blog and read what I've written 10 years back. And jokingly, I'll say, if I don't read my blog, who else will read? I'm the biggest reader of my blog. So like that, you are the biggest spokesperson of your career, of your job. So every startup goes through that phase. I won't repeat. It's from idea stage to sales and support. And then you have to repeat this process. You have to think, how can you do for your career something like this? And when I started business about 25 years back, I was an engineer. I only know about engineering. I didn't know what is a profit and loss. I didn't know cash balance. I didn't know what is a balance sheet. I don't know anything about laws or contracts or marketing, nothing. And after I made so many mistakes, I learned these things. I picked up finance for dummies. I picked up accounting for dummies, sat with my lawyer friend and asked him to explain what is the basic in legal contracts and so on. But today it is all available for you. You should learn all these information. And this is a beautiful idea. Search for this term also, core media literary skills. That is something people are recommending. South California University is talking about 4 C's for this. That's called create, circulate, connect, and collaborate. They call it as the 4C. Each one of us have to pick up these social skills. I'm putting media in the bracket because in the pandemic, we have also lost social skills. How to interact with people, how to talk to each other, how to meet them face to face, how to have lunch, so on and so forth. But you also have to be in social media today. For that, these 4 C's are very, very important. Of course, you have to be original. If you search how to make rasam in YouTube, there is probably a million rasam making videos in YouTube. If you are going to make your own, if the world is going to watch your videos, millions of views, you have to be original. That's what the village cooking program in YouTube did. They made their own original videos. So be original in whatever you do in your career. You have to learn. Today we are so much trained, especially from our academia, how to do something that's been done in the past. Confirmation, but we have to break from it. We have to be original. You have to be a public speaking, because each one of us are doing Zoom calls and video calls and virtual things. So each one of us are a public speaker. So remember, you are your own startup. Those are the skills that you need to. And there are so many entrepreneur associations today available where you can register students like TIE and even NASCOMs of the world have programs, CIA. All of them have programs for students. Join those programs, and all of them are virtual today. You will get mentors and so much of support available. Last point, I'll close with this. Today, every job is a software job. Software is eating the world. Every business we know, Uber doesn't say they are a transportation company. Uber says we are a technology company. Airbnb, Flipkart, Swiggy runs one of the most advanced machine learning programs and teams in the country. But Swiggy is a food serving company. Who would have thought they are a machine learning company? They are a machine learning company. They are doing the number of models that they train today, every day. They are in probably hundreds of cities and thousands of cuisines and lakhs of users orders, but they are learning all those. Even our Reliance Industry, an oil company, has one of the largest software team today. So every business is a software business. So what do? I say that each one of us will become a citizen developer. What do I mean by that? 50, 70 years back, everybody was becoming a typist. Everybody was learning shorthand, typing. 30, 40 years back, everybody was learning Microsoft Office, Tally, and all that. Today, each one of us have to learn programming. You could be in any scheme. You could be a BCom student, you could be a BA, you could be legal, because you won't be having software for your exact business and your own career. So you'll be expected to create it. It could be creating macros in Excel. There are a lot of no-code platforms that are coming in today where you don't need to write code, but the software will get written, but you will have to say what has to be done. The workflow has to be designed by you. So each one of us have to be ready for a citizen development. So software, every job is becoming a software job. So remember that. So those are the 4 key points. Just going through them before I close. It is Lattice career progression. You're not having lifelong jobs. So you have to remember, how do I progress in this? How do I learn, unlearn, and learn? How do I be truly a global citizen, truly a global worker? And each one of us are our own startups, and every one of us is a citizen developer. So those are the 4 key skills that I think each the students today need for the 21st century. I leave you with this slide. This book is a very favorite book of mine by former Intel chairman Andre Grove, who said only the paranoid survive, and the pandemic has reinforced that only the paranoid survive. So for that, once you become paranoid, you don't stop working. Like Dr. Kalam said, you work with integrity. You get paranoid, you dream, but you start working. That is the most important thing. So I'll close with that and wish you all the best for all the students who are listening. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our guest of honor, Thiru Venkatrangan Tirumalai, sir. It was lovely listening to you, sir. Your infectious energy and the examples you used, the comparisons, I could relate to so many things. I'm going to get ready for the future.